everyone, how y'all doing? Hope you're all having a nice day. OTDUDE here. So last year, some of you may know that I created an online survey to ask and find out from occupational therapists who have a disability, either mental or physical, more about them really, like what school was like, what kind of disability they have, where are they from, how is it when they practice, how does it affect them, and much, much more. So let's go over the results that I just published. I was initially hoping to kind of go really deep into the study, kind of like analyze it, put it in, and look at the data. But fortunately, I haven't had much time to really get around to it. But I did publish kind of the overall data itself in the form of graphs and tables. So let's take a look at it. The study is called Occupational Therapists Living with Chronic Disabilities, an online quantitative and qualitative survey. And I published this on December 26th. Boy, time flies. So I decided to publish the raw results from my 6 participants. It's a small sample size, but I think this is kind of also a good thing to be able to process this information so it's not as overwhelming. Like I said, it came from a survey that I posted calling for our participants who experience a disability, occupational therapists in the field of OT, either mental or physical. And it asks basic demographic information about the student experience, symptoms, management, burnout, and more. These results provide a lot of insight really into occupational therapists and how they have been impacted by such conditions. And I don't know if any of these, such type of study has been published, or maybe if you guys do know of it, let me know. I'm really interested in this topic. So thank you to everyone who has participated and submitted your information and your data, and it's really insightful and volunteering. So thank you so much. Number 1, the question I asked is, what are you currently considered? So most of the participants are OT graduates. Cool. Ages, I see here a trend here in their 20s and 2 people in their 50s. So, and 100% were female. Ethnicity primarily, all Caucasian, and predominantly from the US. Now, in terms of the disability, 66% of you said you have both a mental and physical disability. 33% have only a mental disability that you reported. And is your disability diagnosed by a doctor? I was surprised to see that all of you reported that it is diagnosed. And the disability has, interestingly for all of you, been developed before OT school. And you have been coping with it for more than 5 years for sure, 6 years, 10 or more years. So long-term chronic disability here. And what are the specific ones that you reported? In ADHD, Ehlers-Danlos. I'm not too familiar with this one. I have to definitely look into this. POTS, dysautonomia, autonomic dysfunction. This participant has a lot of comorbid conditions going on. We also have another one with lupus, fibromyalgia, very debilitating, especially when you have a flare-up, right? Raynaud's, Gilbert's disease. I'll need to look into this one too. Depression and anxiety, so the mental health aspect here. This person has MDD, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, PTSD, so a lot of the mental health here. Asthma, which can affect you when you work. Yeah, definitely. Migraines, I get that sometimes too. POTS again. This person has physical in terms of chronic head pain, like migraines. That seems to be, I'm sure a lot of you have migraines too. That can be tough when you work having to document, right? Being in constant pain for 10 and a half years. Wow. Fibromyalgia. So feels like your joints are on fire. And OTs, no matter what setting you're working in, you're moving around a lot. And when your joints are on fire, I've had that feeling in my knees before. It can be really tough. Especially when you're doing like transfers and things like that. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Mentally, we have dysthymia, chronic major depression, GAD, social anxiety disorder, which is really interesting. I've seen 2 of these, 1, 2, 3, with anxiety, and I actually almost all of you guys, gals, have anxiety, which is kind of interesting. I think as occupational therapists, we really interface with the public, and we kind of put on our, I would like to say, like my work kind of face. And, I have some anxiety too. And it's pretty amazing how when we get into work mode, we can work through this anxiety, and really drives me is like helping people, and all my anxiety really goes away. And, I can talk to anybody, doctors, families, other therapists, nurses, strangers, really, just it's so different from when I'm like at home and like outside of work. It's like, those of you know me personally, it's like I'm totally different than when I'm working, really. So how have these symptoms affected you all? Um, I asked in terms of kind of the components of the body systems to kind of mimic the practice framework. So hearing, vision, memory have affected. A lot of concentration, such as due to ADHD, definitely. Higher executive function can be affected, has been affected by you all. Wow, which is really interesting because a lot of OT takes on this higher executive function when we do our work. Range of motion, so very physical, that can be hard. Strength, balance, proprioception even. So very interesting. And I asked number 13, what OT job function specifically that has been affected. So gains a lot of insight into how it affects your standing, your walking, your climbing, crouching, pretty much everything I see across the board to some degree. In terms of severity, primarily pain. Yep. This is a scale, so 1 to 5 scale, 5 being most severe, 1 being least severe. So pretty much all across the board, I think you all have answered. Some degree of pain, more fatigue, some weakness. Like I said, again, the anxiety here coming into play, burden on your job, and just burden on your life has been affected. And how has it affected you all in terms of your life day to day? So have you missed any days of work due to your symptoms? And yes, sometimes, some rarely. So all a pretty even distribution. What's interesting is number 16. Have you ever missed any days of OT school due to your symptoms? 100% of you, all 6, responded with yes. So I thought that was very interesting. So that also, I think, gives a lot of students or prospective OT, pre-OT students, if you have a disability, mental or physical, as we have seen from this survey, it does not and it should not stop you from becoming an occupational therapist or any other healthcare, job or whatever career you decide to pursue. It's definitely possible. You can definitely work through it. I think one thing that may help is letting your professors, your faculty, know about your condition so that, first of all, they may be able to accommodate you, give you more testing time if you want to seek it. Or it just having them understand that about you is, I think, very, very helpful so they can provide additional support and even support in ways that you may not have known. So that could be your faculty or advisor or whoever you really trust and believe or really jive in. For me, when we were in OT school, we each had a faculty advisor like throughout from the day you become an OT student to the day you graduate. There's someone who follows you, kind of like a counselor, most schools I think have something like that. But if not, finding even a mentor outside of school is very helpful, so they can help you work through it. And of course, I'm always available, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions or tips. I can try to make more videos about some of this stuff because I think it's really interesting, as occupational therapists ourselves, we work with people who have mental and physical disability, but some of us have it as well personally. So anyways, let's go back to, so number 17, did you ever quit an OT job because of your symptoms? Two people have, how do I interpret this? Some people have, some people have not. So 3 have never, 1 has once. So it really depends, I think, depending on your setting, and it's very individualized, your mental and physical symptoms and how your work setting is like and the work demands. So it's just interesting to see, I think personally, how these 6 participants have been affected. So, of course, that leads to the question of burnout. Do you consider yourself burned out? 1 person does, but 5 no. So also very individualized, depends on where you are in your career, what your tolerance for stress are, what your limitations, how do your symptoms really affect you? Can you manage them with, and I think I go into that later. Can you manage them, or can you step down from a position or lower the hours and limit how your work is affected? That really affects how you may or may not have burnout. And the number one way to manage burnout, I think, is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And there's a really great podcast for burnout. I'll link it in the description below. I think it's by an occupational therapist too. So really, really cool thing to check out if you think you are having burnout, or, I think everyone should really be aware of the subject. Number 19, impact on your occupation. So of course, as an OT, I have to ask an OT type of question. Pretty much all across the board. ADLs, IADLs, primarily rest and sleep. And we all know now how rest and sleep are very important for building immunity, right? So especially during the pandemic. So make sure you all are getting really good rest and sleep so you can build that immunity up, and so that you're wakeful and you could do your work and, be able to concentrate. Because as some of you said, you may have like ADHD, and that can affect your concentration too, right? So poor sleep can make that even worse and exacerbate it. It has affected education, as we've seen, for students in OT school, work, of course, play, leisure, social participation, and definitely, of course, health management. Do you receive any accommodations for work or school? 16% said yes, and 83% said no. So I thought that was really interesting. 21, who knows about your diagnosis? So pretty much almost you all answered doctor, friends do, family members, some coworkers. From one of my other comments that I posted on Instagram, some of you posted that you don't let your coworkers know about your condition, and some other people said that you do and you should. So I think that's a really personal thing. It depends on really how comfortable you are with sharing, but I think really, really interesting. I think definitely in my workplace setting, we all know about each other's. Oh man, like I have a bad back, or I have a bad knee, and we're always asking each other for tips. And like I'm asking my PTs like for treatments and modalities and tips. So I think it definitely could help, right? How do you manage or cope with your symptoms? So this is a really interesting one. I really want to find out, and pretty much almost all of you said medication. So definitely being on board and with getting prescribed the medication, especially with mental, I think mental health, it can take a long time, and in dialing down to the medications that works for you. So definitely be patient and be willing, having an open mind to trying different medications to manage your condition, especially for mental health. But other modalities and methods includes rest, working out, spending time outdoors, mindfulness, getting accommodations would help, like we talked about, therapy, energy conservation. So a lot of what we teach our clients and patients, we can use ourselves. So definitely don't forget about them, and try and be creative and be open to things that, you may talk about. Maybe you can use them for yourself too, right? Practice what we preach. Advice for OTs. And this is my last question. Almost. Yeah. The other question I asked was practice settings. So we have participants from pediatrics in school. No adults. Interesting. No adults, acute care or rehab. Advice for OTs. Be sure to seek professional assistance, educate yourself on the best methods for coping, and try to implement at least one healthy coping strategy each day. Good tip. Do what you can to take care of yourself. You can only help others if you are taken care of. That's often overlooked in a helping profession like OT, but it's so vital. Ask for help when needed and share what you feel comfortable sharing. Definitely. I kind of said similar thing. Interesting. The last person that filled out this question was find someone. Mine is a pediatric psychologist who believes in you about your pain and who will listen to your fears and be a support to help you to find the strength within yourself to conquer your situation. Don't let your disability stop you from your career dream. OT is a field known for helping people overcome obstacles. Shouldn't we do the same for ourselves? So I'll end with that. I think that's a really positive message, and I hope that's really encouraging to all of you out there. If you have a disability, either pre-OT, your current OT student, or you're a working occupational therapist, or any healthcare professional, really, I think it's part of life having mental and physical disability. And I think, especially as an occupational therapist, we are kind of lucky to have and understand the tools so that we can manage this in our own lives, so that not only can we help ourselves, we can help others, our family members, our friends, and our community. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.